Hello, all good day, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this show. Now, today on the show, we have an excellent guest, I must say. We're going to have a CEO chat, a little short chat with none other than the CEO of Celsius himself, Alex. Alex Mashinsky is here with us. But before we start the show, of course, I have to do the usual and to let you know that this is not an investment advice. It is just merely our opinion. Things discussed here should not be considered as, again, tax advice, professional advice, investment advice. You should always trade with caution. There is lots of risks attached to crypto and investments and so on. So before we go on, again, you are now with LATOKEN. We are streaming on all the platforms at the moment. So do click subscribe and you can see shows like this in the coming future. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest. Today we have with us Alex. Alex, hi, and thank you for making time.
Sure. Hi, Terrence, and thanks for having me.
Great. Alex, we have people tuning in. And from that, what we can see is some of these people are actually project owners themselves. Some are traders, and lots of people are interested in business and how to go about things. And you are none other, I guess, a really good person to speak to. Alex, we want to touch a bit about yourself and how you started off. It seems very interesting. You come from a background of a few unicorns. Not many can sort of highlight that one. So it would be interesting, Alex, if you could start off a little bit about that journey and what brought you on to coming up with the Celsius network.
Sure. No, thanks for the introduction. So I was born in the Ukraine back when it was part of the USSR, the Russian Empire.
Right.
And obviously seeing the events there and helping the Ukrainian people through donations and others is part of what we do every day. I then immigrated. My family immigrated to Israel, so I grew up in Israel. So if you think of Ukraine as communism and Israel as socialism, then I spent the next 30 something years in the United States in capitalism and built several unicorns, as you mentioned. All of them focused on doing good first and then doing well. So, for example, I was one of the first people to build voice over IP, which we're using right now, right? So this is a technology that allowed us to not use the phone companies, and we took the power away from the phone companies and gave it to the people. Another project is Transit Wireless, where we basically in New York City, there's 8 million people that use the subways every day. They didn't have any connectivity underground. There was no Wi-Fi, no 4G. So we installed all those systems and gave it for free to the users, got the phone companies to pay for it. So that's 2 rounds winning against the phone companies. Not easy, but phone companies were just that's the junior leagues. The big leagues are fighting the banks. So I decided to pick up a fight with the banks because no one else is willing to do it. Everybody somehow is afraid of the banks. And when I saw crypto, I realized that we can really replace the entire banking system with a new system that works in our best interest. And
Right.
decided to build Celsius.network, which really allows you to earn yield, get loans, be able to trade or swap between assets with no fees. And we've paid our community over $1 billion in yield since we started Celsius.network. We're now managing over $20 billion for 1.5 million people worldwide. And we're helping millions of people achieve financial freedom.
Right, I think that's great. We're definitely going to touch more on Celsius Network, but first, a little bit again back onto you and some of the ventures that you are actually leading as well. I mean, by the looks of it, you have lots of patents and you've done lots of companies who has been successful as well. What are the lessons here? Because I'm sure lots of people are tuning in are also project owners themselves, and they would definitely love to hear from you. What can we learn from the successes and the failures?
Sure. So again, you obviously learn more from your failures than from your successes, but I think it all comes back to a community. If Voice over IP, for example, if you don't have a community of users, you're not going to have Skype, you're not going to have WhatsApp, you're not going to have all these companies that basically became very successful on top of voice over IP, right? Same thing with crypto. A lot of people come to crypto because they want to get rich quick, and they don't focus on the community. They don't focus on doing good, on thinking about their customers, and they just don't. They're not successful at building that community, right? I mean, go on Twitter and say something bad about Celsius. See what happens to you in 10 seconds, right? So that's how you measure the commitment or the loyalty or the passion that your community has. And if you have a strong community, you have a strong project. If you don't have a strong community, then you don't have a strong project. Then tokens, in 2020, for example, the Cell token, our project, was the best performing crypto anywhere on the planet. Of the top 100, it was ranked by Masari as number one, right? So, and it's
Mm.
because of the growth of the community, the adoption of the community. And look at the top 100 today. Almost every project there, you will see a very, very strong community. Look at Luna, look at
Mm.
Solana, look at any of these other projects. So I think the main disconnect for a lot of founders that I talk to is that they somehow think that you need to be a good trader or you need to be
Mm.
a good technologist. And yes, you need all those skills, but one of the most important skills is creating and growing the community.
Hmm. I think that's definitely a good area to focus as well. But if you could also dive into Celsius a little more, tell us a bit about your business model and how that is coming about. I mean, what's the core in that business model? Can you tell us a
Sure.
bit more about that? Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the first events actually that we launched Celsius was at a LATOKEN event in New York. It was
Yeah.
Constantine invited us to do one of the keynote speeches, and
Right.
people were scratching their head. They were like saying, "How is this possible?" Right? So let me
Right.
explain it. It's actually very, very simple, right?
Mm.
So all of us have a bank account, right? We have a job, we earn some money, we take that money and we give it to the bank for free. The bank doesn't pay us almost any interest on that money. Then the bank
Right.
turns around, the bank takes our money for free, turns
Mm.
around, lends it to our neighbor at 24% on their credit card, right? So
Right.
we get zero, and the bank collects 24%. How is that a fair
Mm.
deal? It's a great
Yeah.
deal for the bank, but it's a horrible deal for the borrower and for the lender. So all
Mm.
Celsius does is that Celsius comes in the middle and says, okay, will the borrower pay 9%? Of course, instead of 24. Will the lender agree to lend that money at 7% instead of at zero? Of course,
Mm.
everybody would love to earn 7% on their money. So all we're doing is we're basically replacing the function that banks and financial institutions serve,
Mm.
but with something that is a community driven effort that distributes most of the rewards back to the community. That's really the essence of Celsius, is replacing the financial functions that very large institutions are doing and
Mm.
keeping all the profits to themselves, right? What do banks do with all that money that they make? They give it to their shareholders, right? If
Yeah.
they wanted
Yeah.
to, they could give it to you and me. They could pay us 7% and still be profitable, but they decide every month, every quarter, they have to give all the profits to their shareholders.
Right. And let's talk about that slogan of yours as well. What's the mission behind that? I mean, I'm sure you're pissing off lots of traditional banks here.
Yeah, I joke that I'm very. Since I launched Celsius, no one invites me to parties in the Hamptons. I became so unpopular. I became unpopular with the rich, but became very popular with everybody else. So the 1% does not like Celsius or Alex Mashinsky. But look, this is not. This is about basically redistributing wealth. Look,
Hmm.
on a more equal basis, right? We the people are the ones working hard for the money. The banks don't work hard for the money. They just take it
Hmm.
for free and decide who to give it to, and then decide what to do with the profits. So Celsius really was built in a completely different way, and it relies on doing doing good first, then doing well. So the most important thing is, are we giving enough to our community. Also,
Mm.
another slogan that we use is let's unbank the banked. So let's help the people that already have money in the banks to unbank themselves and earn yield. And then after we've done that, we're going to bank the unbanked. We're going to take the fact that we have a lot of assets and we're already earning a lot to go to places like Asia and Africa where most people don't have bank accounts. They can't
Mm.
afford a bank account, and
Mm.
give them these services almost basically for free, right? So those are the missions. Celsius is aiming to bring 100 million new people into crypto, right? Our focus is on educating people. That's what we're doing on this show, and
Mm.
convince them that if they just migrate from the people that charge them fees and the people who don't pay them anything to the
Mm.
people who act in your best interest, you can actually have a path. You can put yourself on a path to financial freedom.
Right. I think that's definitely the way to go, and I'm sure with the growth of Celsius, that's only testament to what you're doing right. But can you tell us a bit about the project and Celsius and the tokens and the ecosystem itself? How are you different from some of your competitors out there?
Well, first we invented the whole category, and we were the first to launch this, right? So we invented the whole thing.
Mm.
So we've been paying yield longer than anybody else. We pay you every Monday, and we've been doing this more than longer than anyone else. We paid over $1 billion to our community. No one else is even close to that. So if you measure companies by, okay, how much they have in assets, how much did they pay their community, Celsius is probably 3 4 5 times bigger than anybody else, right?
Mm.
And again, our success is how many of our customers are doing well, right? That's
Mm.
really how we measure success. Also, we offer many, many more services in our wallet than others. So you can take a loan, you can earn yield, you can swap between assets, right? You can stake, you can do many other things in the app. All you have to do is download the app, register, and start using the service. And we support 53 different assets. So basically you have a very broad range of assets that you can choose from. So if
Mm.
you are again, if you are a Cardano fan, you can earn yield on Cardano. You can take a loan against Cardano. If you love Ethereum, you can do many things there. And Celsius has many different yield strategies, right? So we're not relying like some of our competitors relied on one strategy, and when that strategy failed, they stopped paying interest or they lowered their interest by 90%, right?
Right. Tell us more about the source of the yield then. Yeah.
Yeah, so we generate yield from 7 different sources, right? So we can talk.
Mm.
Let's go through them quickly.
Yep.
The and again, so Celsius collects coins from 1.5 million people, and then we lend
Mm.
them out to institutions, to exchanges, to DeFi. We do staking, right? We do lending, retail lending, and
Mm.
all those things. The institution, the exchanges, the big guys pay us fees, and then we basically distribute most of those fees to our community in the form of yield or rewards. Most
Mm.
of the other project in crypto, most of the DeFi projects are minting, they're printing new coins, or they're taking coins from treasury and they're giving them to you. That is
Mm.
inflation. So it looks like interest, but if the project inflation is 20% and they're paying you 20%, that
Mm.
means you didn't really earn 20%, right? So it's similar to
Right.
the US dollar. If the government is printing dollars and they give you a little raise, they give you $1,200, but they printed $10 trillion, you're basically suffering from the inflation. You're not benefiting from this money that you receive. So you have to be really, you have to, if you're looking at these projects, you have to dig into the source of yield. Is it
Mm.
sustainable? Is it coming from third parties? Or are
Mm.
these projects just generating coins or tokens and
Mm.
sending them to the community, which is really not a sustainable source of yield?
Right. And what is Celsius doing to ensure that sustainability of that yield, given the growth in the current market and within the sector itself?
Yeah. So, for example, if you take Ethereum, for example, right, there's
Right.
many ways to generate yield. You can
Mm.
stake it on ETH2, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
put it on DeFi. You can lend it to institutions. You can do futures funding. You can do arbitrage. You can do market making. So, most
Right.
people don't have the skills to do all these things. And the
Mm.
beauty about Celsius, you don't need to even know what those words mean. You just put your ETH into a Celsius wallet, you go to sleep, you wake up Monday morning, and there's more ETH in your wallet. Now, if you want to earn and sell, you have also the option to tell the app, I don't want to earn yield in Bitcoin or in Ethereum. I want to earn it in Cell token, our native token. And then
Mm.
you can boost your yield. You can get 30% more, up to 30% more against your underlying asset, against your Ethereum or against your Bitcoin. So you get to choose. We don't recommend one or the other. You have to decide what you like better. And
Mm.
our job, and look, I'm the largest user of Celsius. I have over $200 million in Celsius as a user. You get
Mm.
to sit on the bus right next to me. You earn exactly the same yield. You see what I do. I publish my wallet so everybody can see the balance in my wallet. You can see if I'm
Right.
buying or selling, and so on. So we believe in full transparency. And again, we don't provide investment advice. Every person has to decide for themselves how they do this. Our
Mm.
job is basically just to create the platform and enable people to either join or get off the bus. You don't like what we're doing, you can get off the bus and get on some other bus.
Yeah, I think that's great. And do you think this transparency has helped in the growth of Celsius as well?
Definitely. Look, I think we are the most transparent project in all of crypto. We do, just to give you some examples of what we do, right? So
Mm.
we have proof of reserves, we have proof of community, we have Rewards Explorer. These are all services where you can go into the code, you can go and see all of the flows of the coin and verify what we're telling you. So think about it
Mm.
this way: if let's say that the Bitcoin pool is 100 Bitcoin and you have one Bitcoin out of the 100, you should be earning 1% of the earnings. You can verify, how much did Celsius earn? Did I
Mm.
get 1% of the earnings? Did they pay it to me on time? Do they actually have the 100 Bitcoin that they told me they have? Try that
Mm.
with your bank. Next time you send a deposit to your bank, tell them, I want to know what you're doing with my money. I want to know where you're earning yield. I want to know
Mm.
who you're paying that yield to. And I want to know if I'm getting my fair share of that yield. Let's see what the bank tells you when you try that. So
Yeah.
we're all laughing, but that's
Yeah.
what Celsius innovated in both
Mm.
CeFi and DeFi, right? So
Mm.
look at our Celsius X project, right? CelsiusX.io. Uh,
Mm.
that's our DeFi
That's
initiative,
the latest one, correct? Yep.
right? Where we allow you
Mhm.
to move between blockchains. So you can basically take Dogecoins and you can put them on Ethereum. You can take
Mm.
Cardano and wrap it and put it on another chain. You can
Mm.
move assets to Polygon.
Mm.
You can basically trade them with no fees, and those are things that you're not going to find anywhere else, right? So because we make all of our money on deployment of assets, we give everything else for free. Celsius never charges customers any fees. Ourselves, we don't charge any fees, and
Mm.
basically you can basically verify that. On top of it, we also, if you withdraw from Celsius, we pay your withdrawal fees, where most exchanges, most platform charge you withdrawal fees, right? So when you add all
Yeah.
the fees, the trading fees, the spreads, the withdrawal fees, and everything else, you
Mm.
realize that the teaser rates that they give you are not real rates, because you end up paying for it on the way out or while you're sitting and waiting for those rewards.
Right, right. And I agree. And I think that definitely that full transparency is also helping. But how and what is Celsius doing to sort of educate, let's say, the common people in the traditional business model? How are you migrating them into the whole, let's say, out of the banking system?
Right. So most of our competitors spend billions of dollars putting their names on stadiums and advertising on television and hiring very famous people to say words of nice words about them. We
Right,
decided to take all that money, and instead of giving it to Google and Facebook and billionaires who own basketball teams, how about we give it to the community? So all of our education is done through the community, reaching out to people they know, their friends and family. So, for
right.
example, if you help onboard somebody into Celsius, you get $50 and they get $50, right? So the referral code that we have in the system allow
Hmm.
you to make money from educating, from teaching others about how to earn yield, how to unbank yourself, how to do good first. And all those things, I think, are the way we should be building the community. Unfortunately, too many companies in crypto are basically copying the worst habits of Wall Street, the worst habits of the banks, and
Hmm.
bringing that into crypto instead of building a new system that is really acting in our best interest. So Celsius proved that there is a new business model, that is a much better way. And this is, again, talking to all the founders who are watching this show.
Hmm.
Copy. I invite you to copy the Celsius business model. I invite you to do good. I invite you to focus on the community. I invite you on focusing on scaling the crypto universe instead of focusing on how do I make money, how do I charge fees, how do I hide fees in a way that the customer doesn't find out until it's
Hmm.
too late, because all those things just take people away from crypto. People see that they come from fiat land to crypto land, they're tourists, they think everything is wonderful, and then they find out that everybody in crypto land is a pickpocket thief who's stealing
Hmm.
coins out of them, right? That's not a good experience. So let's
Right.
focus on doing good, and you will do well as well after that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely great advice, and even better for the industry on a whole. And also touching on that, your, let's say, your customer base or the people that actually focus on Celsius Network, it'll probably be easier in North America and Europe to sort of get unbanked and come on to the crypto system and the networks itself. How and what are you doing in Asia, perhaps? Could you enlighten us about that? And how are you helping perhaps this side of the world?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there, right? I mean, the Ethereum fees, which are anywhere between $30 and $100, are more
Hmm.
than most people in these countries have in their pocket.
Yeah.
So obviously, they cannot join the revolution if the
Hmm.
ticket, just the ticket to try a transaction, is more than they have.
Hmm.
So that's why Celsius X was launched on the Polygon network. Polygon, the fee is less than a penny. A transaction fee on Polygon is less than a penny.
Hmm.
And finally, we can do the second part of our mission, right? The first part being unbank the banked. The second part is bank the unbanked. So we launched a um, Celsius X earlier last month.
Hmm.
And now anyone can join. Anyone can open an account and join and run on the Polygon network. And basically, even if they have $10, they can join the revolution, right? So now we just need a community like the people watching your show to
Hmm.
educate everybody else. Okay, how do you get on layer two? How do you transact? How do you use a quick swap, for example? How do you use other services that are available to not just buy digital assets, but also to start earning yield?
Right. And is there any more up and coming, say, new services launches from Celsius itself?
Yeah, so we have many new things every month. We have launches. Please come join us. Follow us on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. I do AMAs today. Right after the show, I'm doing an AMA, and a 2 hour AMA
Right.
every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You can join. You can ask questions. You can learn from others. So definitely, and usually we provide updates about new things and releases and new features on those weekly shows. We also on Twitter Spaces every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So come join the Celsius Network on Twitter Spaces if you prefer that, and you can again join. You can talk. You can participate. So we are very close to the community, very close to the people that we serve every day. And again, my people ask me, Alex, where do you have all this energy? And I'm like, when I wake up in the morning, there's 10 thank you emails, at least 10, sometimes 20, from our customers who are saying, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Celsius. You changed our lives. And I push all those people to go back and do good, right? Educate others, help
Right.
other people get on a bus so they can
Right.
achieve financial freedom.
Right. And definitely we should thank you as well for sort of educating us and the community here in LATOKEN as well. and with what Celsius can do and what we can all achieve together as a community. Now, Alex, having said that, I mean, we touched about Celsius Network. We touched about pretty much how you came about. Uh, let's talk about the crypto industry as well. I think you're pretty vocal within the industry, and I think definitely you can weigh in on this. Uh, it's moving really fast, the crypto industry. What's been happening? Perhaps this March. Perhaps you could tell us what's been happening there and what you're expecting for April.
So I totally agree with you. I think a lot of
Hmm.
new people that are joining crypto are very frustrated because they feel like
Hmm.
they can't learn fast enough.
Right.
And there is no way, if any of you think you can keep up with everything in crypto, you are totally wrong. So you can't. You have to decide. You have to follow. You have to decide. Okay, I'm gonna follow Solana and Luna. Okay, or I'm gonna follow the Ethereum Foundation and learn much more about that. You have to specialize in one or two projects that are things that you think are interesting for you, and then that becomes your focus. It's great to know other things, but
Hmm.
there's no way you can keep up. There's over 16,000 different crypto projects out there.
Hmm.
I'm talking about people who minted a coin or a token. So
Right.
there's no way for any human to follow up with all of that. So I
Hmm.
think really this is about no one. If anyone tells you we know what the future looks like, don't listen to them, right? So all of these different projects are experiments, right? They're all
Right.
experiments
Hmm.
trying to figure out what is the right business model, what is the right format, where does the community, where do people want to follow, right? So you see
Hmm.
gaming, and you see NFTs, and you see DeFi,
Hmm.
and CeFi, and many, many other innovations. And all of those have different communities. Each one of them has its own community that is even growing or shrinking, right? And
Hmm.
based normally the token price tells you if the community is growing, right? That if you're thinking about it just as a place where you make money, then
Hmm.
you got it all wrong, right? When you see a token price going up, usually that means that community is growing. There's much more interest in that community, and you have to ask yourself, okay, why is this community doing so well? What did they innovate? What did they do better or differently than others? And that's really the reasons. If you're building your own project, you should be copying the best practices, not the bad things, but the good things that all these projects are innovating.
Right. And there's lots of news coming out from America, the Federal Reserve, and the people in power there as well. Could you talk to us about that? What's been happening? I think Biden just had a few executive orders passed. There's a few bills going up. JP, as you as some may call him, is also weighing in. Now, why is the crypto market still really hedging on what's happening in Wall Street? Why is the movement sort of similar?
Yeah, so look, all the money in the world is interconnected. It's not like
Hmm.
dollars are not connected to Bitcoin or not connected to euros or yuans or anything like that, right? So all the money in the world is interconnected. And when there is a shock or a movement in one market, it also creates shock waves in other markets. So right now we're going through a lot of stress. You have the war in Ukraine. You have Russia with sanction. You have COVID, like
Hmm.
it's breaking out again in China, right? You
Hmm.
have inflation in all over the world. You have commodity prices going sky high. So all of those things are shocks in the system, and you see the Federal Reserve making changes, right? They're starting to raise rates. All these things are causing shocks, and a lot of people are confused. A lot of people don't know
Hmm.
if things are going to go up or going to go down. So there's a lot of confusion. On top of it, there's also uncertainty in regulation. So you're seeing, like you said about the Biden administration, they basically didn't update us. They just said, look, we're going to give these agencies 6 months to figure out how to regulate crypto.
Yeah.
They kicked the can down the road by 6 months. So I think
Hmm.
you have to stay on top of the news, but in
Hmm.
general terms, crypto has its own path, right? It's its own asset class. It has its own community, and over time, more and more people are going to join crypto, and it's going to be less and less correlated to the stock market. Today, most of the people who buy and sell stocks on the Nasdaq, for example, are also people trading in Bitcoin or Ethereum. So you see
Mm.
those two moving together, but over time you will see a decoupling or separation between the stock market and the crypto market.
Right. And you mentioned earlier about stress events as well. Now, what are the stress events perhaps in the crypto industry or even within Celsius itself? Or what do you think some of these stress events could be or could potentially be? Could you tell us more about that?
Well, so every year you are seeing drawdowns, or basically prices fall by
Hmm.
at least 50%, right? It happens basically every year, once a year or twice a year. And those are the stress events, right? So basically
Mm.
the market tests the resolve. It tests the community to see, do you want to go forward with Bitcoin or Ethereum or other assets, or
Mm.
are you going to get scared and you're going to sell your assets and you're going to move back from crypto land back to fiat land? Are you a tourist or are you here to stay, right?
Right. Right.
And every year we're seeing that the support levels are higher. So if last year the support level was 20,000, this year the support level is 30 or 32,000, and
Mm.
hopefully again next year will be even higher prices. So what's good to see is that we have higher highs and higher lows for almost every asset or the major
Mm.
assets. Yes, there's some bad assets or assets that lose their community and the prices continue to go down, but the
Mm.
strong assets with the strong communities continue to have higher highs and higher lows.
Do you think that's sustainable though in the coming future? And when do you think the whole cryptocurrency space will sort of decouple from your traditional stock markets and Wall Street and so on and so forth?
So the reason it's sustainable is because the highest quality projects are
Mm.
have limited supply. For example, Bitcoin has
Mm.
limited supply, right? BNB has limited supply. Celsius, our token, has limited supply, and on top of it, it's deflationary. Why it's deflationary? Because, for example, for Bitcoin, a lot of people lose their keys, right? So the number of
Mhm.
Bitcoins, Satoshi said no more than 21 million, but really it's much less than that because every day people lose their keys, make a mistake,
Right.
lose their wallet, and so on. So the
Yeah.
number of coins available is going down. The number of
Right.
people using it is going up every day. You can see that on the chain. You can
Hmm.
see that the total number of active wallets is increasing, right?
Hmm.
So more supply, more demand, less supply means higher prices.
Right, right. I mean, great thoughts on that, Alex. And again, thank you for your earlier thoughts as well. We are at the tail end of the show, Alex. Can you tell us a bit more about Celsius Network and how do we find the latest updates, like you mentioned, the AMAs, and so what's the best place to do so, and how do we get involved?
Yeah, so again, Celsius Network is the largest community to earn yield in
Hmm.
crypto, over 20 billion in assets, 1.62 million customers from all over the world, over 170 countries. So again, the broadest and deepest community. We've been paying yield longer than anyone else. We paid more yield to the community than any project in DeFi or CeFi
Hmm.
by a lot. And on top of it, again, you can basically all you have to do to join the Celsius network is download the wallet, download the app, or go to our web app on Celsius.network, open an account, put some coins to work. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to trade. You don't have to wake up in the middle of the night and rebalance or move around or do farming. None of that. You just put the coins. Every Monday, you get more coins. You need a loan. Instead of selling your coins, you can take a loan against your coins and spend the dollars, pay off the expensive credit cards, right? Pay off your car loan and so on, so on. You can borrow from Celsius, stable coin or dollars at 1% per year. That's how cheap the loans are, 1% per year. Try that with your bank or your credit card company. Try to borrow at 1%, right? So also you can swap with no fees, no spreads, no withdrawal fees, right? So no one else in the world offers that. And just try it out. You get $50. We have coupons that you have on our website. You can basically, if you put $400, minimum $400, you can basically get $50 from Celsius. So
Hmm.
immediately you're ahead, and then every week you start earning interest on that amount. So those are all amazing ways for the average person to earn yield. And the best part about everything I just said is that guess who pays all that yield? Institutions, banks, financial institution, exchanges, all the big guys who you normally steal from you, normally take
Right.
from, are now paying you. Why? Because you are part of a very large community. We have close to 150,000 Bitcoin. So if you want to borrow Bitcoin and you need size, you can. One of the very few places you can come to is Celsius Network. This way, the little guy, even if you have a few satoshis, you have the power of the masses with you. Where we are one of the, if we were a bank, we would be one of the largest banks in the United States.
Definitely the Robin of Locksley within the crypto space itself, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's great. Alex, before we end the show, I think a good bit of advice from you. There's lots of people tuning in at the moment. Most of them are crypto founders, project founders as well. What's your word of advice to them within the industry as an entrepreneur? What would you advise
Yeah,
them?
we talked about this a little bit before, right? You need to
Mm,
balance, you need to have all the different skills, and many founders are good at one thing, sometimes at two things, and they don't realize that they need either co-founders or they need people on their team that
mm,
help them with the things that they're not good at. So for example, if you are a very technical founder, you need someone to help you build the community, you need someone to help you raise the money, you need someone to help you manage the team, right? Those are the things that a lot of young entrepreneurs don't really think about. They think everything is just, they're just going to launch the project and everything magically is going to happen by itself, right?
mm.
And very, very few projects actually succeed in that. Again, 16,000 projects, probably 50 of them are doing well, right? Everybody else
Right.
is struggling. So the
Mm,
competition is very high. And unless you are working for the community, unless you can prove to the community that you're acting in their best interest, you're not going to be successful because the crypto community moves very fast and they
mhm.
forget about you in about 5 minutes, right? So if you're not earning, you're not keeping every customer that you get,
Right.
you will never make it.
That's definitely great advice, and not only for the crypto industry, but also for business in life, I think. Again, Alex, I cannot thank you enough for spending time with us here in LATOKEN and on the show. I hope everyone got the takeaway from you, the Celsius team, the network, and also some of the projects that we feature here. So, Alex, again, thank you for your time. And to everybody out there as well, tune in next week for something new.